Hi guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be yet another reincarnation story for you guys. These freak me out because reincarnation as a concept kind of scares me. I don't know why. I think a lot of it's really sweet and like comforting in a way. It also absolutely terrifies me because if I had children and they said some of the things that like were just so undeniably like they were reincarnated, I would be very freaked out. So without further ado, let's get into it. So a lot of these come from The Ghost Inside My Child. If you've never seen the show, you should definitely check it out. It is very, very good. The first story we're going to talk about follows a girl named Taylor who is from Indianapolis, Indiana. And her parents were really happy to have her because sadly before Taylor was born, she had a brother named Justin who had a seizure disorder and he passed away at 3 years old, which is just so heartbreaking. A genetic doctor told Taylor's mother that if she were to have another child, the child had a 1 in 10 chance of having this genetic disorder. So luckily Taylor was a healthy baby and everything was fine. Again, with a lot of these stories, the kids tend to learn things at a quicker age. Like they talk earlier, walk earlier. That's very common, and Taylor was no exception to that. She was talking and walking very early. Taylor was about 4 years old when her mom and her stepdad noticed a strange behavior. Taylor was incredibly hypersensitive to fireworks. Also, she could like feel a thunderstorm from miles away. Apparently she did this a lot where she would like wiggle her fingers in the air, but one day her mom noticed that she was like talking to someone while she did this, and so she asked, "Who are you talking to?" And Taylor said Justin, which really first of all freaked her mom out because she had never talked to her about Justin. She never told her that she had a brother because she was too young at that point to explain, so she never told her about Justin at all. And this made her feel a little bit nervous that there was like a ghost in the house, but also comforted with the fact that she felt genuinely like Justin was still around, which was sweet. One night when Taylor was 5 years old, her parents woke up to like a really weird scream, and she was just standing at the stove, just completely blank staring. It was so creepy, and like her stepdad thought that she was having like a nightmare or like sleepwalking or something, but like she was just completely not conscious even though she was still like standing there. One night Taylor went to her mom's room and said, "Mom, there's a ghost in my room." Her stepdad actually believed that Taylor's lack of sleep was causing her to have hallucinations, aka seeing like these ghosts that weren't actually there. Her mom took her to the doctor and she was diagnosed with generalized anxiety. As Taylor got older, the nightmares got worse. One night Taylor told her mom that something happened while she was sleeping. She said she had a nightmare. She was looking at herself from an above point of view, but she was looking and herself was a skinny white man who was writing a letter with a feather. This was when her mom started to wonder if Taylor was remembering a past life memory. Taylor claimed that she remembers writing on a piece of paper with a feather pen, and the piece of paper was like more cloth-like rather than paper. Taylor says that she remembers her name being Matthew Koppel. She claims that this was who she was in a past life and started to get hysterically upset and said that this letter was super important and that she never got to finish it. She says that she was writing a letter as Matthew Koppel to his wife, and all of a sudden she heard a loud noise and then was dead. So when Taylor started to realize that this was her past life, she really wanted to learn more. So her mom ended up researching and found a few men that could possibly be, you know, in this time era of the 1700s with the feather pen. She found one Matthew Koppel, but also another man named Henry M. Koppel. She decided to show Taylor the two men, and now that Taylor's 16 years old, she was able to make a connection and felt that it was Henry M. Koppel who was herself in her past life. They were actually able to find a record of Henry Koppel's like handwriting. It had totally freaked her out because she felt like that is exactly what she would see in her like memory of writing that letter. It looked exactly the same, so she feels that she was Henry Koppel in this past life. So in order to help her and Henry move on and release this pain, she ended up writing a letter saying goodbye to his wife and kind of finishing it off, and luckily Taylor has felt much better since, and I just think that's so crazy. I love when these past life stories have an exact connection and an exact person that we can actually see that was potentially them as in the past life. I don't know, it's very freaky, but also really cool at the end of the day. The next story we're going to be talking about follows a boy named Ryan from Las Vegas, Nevada. Pretty normal baby, but started to realize that he was incredibly smart at a very young age. Ryan was able to carry conversations with adults like no problem. He also had a very big vocabulary, which definitely shocked the adults around him. So he did suffer from extreme anxiety. He was very much afraid of separation anxiety from his parents. Like, anytime his mom or dad like dropped him off at school, he would freak out and feel like they weren't going to come back to get him. And one day his mom asked the teacher like, how long does he typically keep crying for after I leave? And the teacher said for over an hour, which is very, very scary. That's like a long time for a kid to be very much freaking out about the separation anxiety, so he definitely struggled with that. One day when Ryan was 4 years old, he looked up at his mother and said, "You're the best mommy I've ever had." And she was obviously confused by this and said, "I'm the only mommy you've ever had." And he said, "No, I had another mommy and daddy, but I picked you to be my mommy." He said, "I picked you because I followed your footprints in the snow." This really freaked out his mom because obviously they're from Las Vegas, Nevada. There's like no snow. Ryan had never even seen snow. But she's from Pennsylvania, so she had been around snow her whole life, so she just really thought this was like a really freaky connection. Ryan also had a lot of empathy as a kid. He really wanted to protect people. He wanted to potentially be in the military or a police officer. He just like really wanted to try and keep people safe. It was strange because this line of like work was never something that his family had talked about. Like no one in his family were cops or in the military. So it was just really weird that he was super interested in this. So one day Ryan and his mom were in the backyard and it was kind of becoming dark, and all of a sudden Ryan starts crying and screaming and saying, "Don't you see that glowing light?" And his mom was like, "No, there's nothing there." It became very frequent that he would see these glowing, colorful lights around him, and it would kind of just surround him completely, and no one else could see what he was talking about. One day his mom actually decided to ask what happened to his other parents, and he claimed that someone came in and shot them with a gun. He said that he then had to live with his grandparents, and they lived on a farm with 6 dogs. His parents started to get really concerned because they had never shown him any like things with gun violence or any type of TV shows that would have stuff like that on it, so they were confused where he was coming up with this. Then he began to claim that his name in this past life was Ed Johnson. Because Ryan was so matter-of-fact about this story and all of the details remained consistent, his mom started to think that it was a possibility that he was remembering a past life. That's when everything clicked for Ryan's parents because they were like, of course, the separation anxiety makes a lot of sense now. He was genuinely afraid that his parents would never come back because perhaps in his past life they didn't. As Ryan got a little bit older, his past life memories began to fade, which is something that we see typically happen in these cases. But his mom still wanted to try to find answers, but she found 2 stories that were similar, but neither of them had the name Ed Johnson, and Ryan claimed that neither of them were him. So his mom wants to continue to research, and Ryan still wants to be a police officer because he wants to protect other people from what happened to him in the past life from happening to other people. I just find that story really, really interesting, and I think it's really sad. Like, I can't imagine having that past life memory and then that fear that something was going to happen in this life. And that separation anxiety, it just kind of all made sense once it's put together. So I don't know, but I thought it was really interesting. But that is it for today's reincarnation stories. If you guys like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of these reincarnation stories, and if you have any of your own personal reincarnation stories, please let me know below. I love to read those. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram because I'm always posting really dope ass shit on there. Subscribe for new videos every week, and I will see you guys later. Bye!